That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, I know. Trust me, I know we're going to get so much hate for this video, but I think that these videos are the most important videos for us to do every single week. And like I say in every video, your opinion and what you actually have to say about a situation, I value greatly. So please don't hesitate to let me know what you're thinking down in the comment section below. Now, don't stop at Mason, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. While yes, I know that's what you're going to want to say. Instead, give me your argument. Lay out some facts. Lay out a just explanation on why you think that maybe one of these players that I'm saying that we should sell high, if you think that they're actually an intriguing guy to keep on your roster, let me know down in the comment section as well. You can ask any questions you may have. I'm going to be trying to reply to as many of those as I possibly can. But we're going to go through and we're going to talk about at least 5 sell high candidates. I'll throw in some bonus guys at the end, just making sure that we're getting in some honorable mentions of players that we may want to track over the next few weeks. But before we do, make sure you go down there, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button because we go live every single night. I also make videos every single day where we premiere the videos and I hang out in the live chat. That way I can talk to you directly and answer your personal questions. And at the same time, even if you don't have a question, you are more than welcome to come out and tell me, Mason, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about for reasons X, Y, and Z. And I'd be happy to listen to you. But yeah, that should be it. Drop that like on the video and let's dive into it with our first player is going to be at the receiver position. And this is someone that we identified as an intriguing target to start in week 1 because I think the quarterback chemistry that he has and I think the overall fit with his quarterback is fantastic. And that is Deebo Samuel. So with Deebo Samuel, I will be the first person to admit he was not someone I was drafting at all in 2021. And I stand by the reason why we were not drafting Deebo Samuel despite him coming out and my gosh, crushing the Detroit Lions with 12 targets, 9 receptions, almost 200 yards. He goes out 189 receiving yards and a touchdown at the same time. Now with Deebo Samuel, I will say we have to understand the context of this performance and we have to understand the question marks that we have centering around Deebo Samuel. The context of this performance was against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, one of the worst teams in the NFL, in the Detroit Lions. So I definitely want to at least be viewing this a little tinted in that this was a great matchup for Samuel to start off. And also, we need to understand that Brandon Ayuk dealing with that hamstring injury. I am of the opinion, while we don't have the official reports just quite yet, Brandon Ayuk, there's no way he was healthy in week 1, not drawing a single target based on what we had his rookie season. That is either the strangest performance of all time, or it's a simple explanation on that Brandon Ayuk still dealing with that injury. Yes, he was healthy enough to go out there and act as a decoy, very similar to what we've had with Julio Jones in recent years, very similar to what we had with Megatron so long ago. Not saying that Brandon Ayuk is either one of those players, but I'm saying that this is something that you should remember. You should remember that premier wide receivers can go and still be active in their offenses, even if they're not at 100%, just to make sure that defensive coordinators are having to keep 2 safeties back just to make sure that they're going to be able to open up space for the other wide receivers underneath. So having Ayuk, quote unquote, active and healthy and good to go 100% helps the overall offense, even though Brandon Ayuk's not drawing any targets himself. So that's another thing that's going to change throughout the entire season. But what was the number one storyline that we were talking about, the number one narrative that we were talking about going into week 1 with Deebo Samuel? And that was with Jimmy Garoppolo starting at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be that option that was a lot more willing to check the ball down to a Deebo Samuel, because we know Deebo Samuel, I hate to say this, and I know we're standing by this, and I'm going to continue to say it all the way through the season. Whenever you go to start Deebo Samuel, and you know how you click on, okay, let's put Deebo Samuel in at wide receiver 2. Deebo Samuel in reality is not a wide receiver 2. In reality, Deebo Samuel is a hybrid position that we don't even have the name of. If you look at how he's utilized in that San Francisco 49ers offense over the past few seasons, his average depth of target literally is the same as running backs. I mean, like James White is getting targeted in the same exact area of the football field as Deebo Samuel. It's the weirdest thing that we have ever seen, just with the route tree that he is running being so specific. It's more so that Deebo Samuel's operating as that check down option whenever you're not going to have the primary wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle open over the top. And that check down option is going to be a great place to go with in fantasy when you have Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback, because something that we have talked about over and over and over again is understanding that the prototype of a certain quarterback is going to dictate how many targets a certain wide receiver, running back, or tight end is going to get on the field. And the check down option, what you want from that player is you want the player that's playing alongside a quarterback that is a stationary pocket passing option, that can't extend plays with his legs. You don't want him playing alongside Russell Wilson. You don't want him playing alongside Lamar Jackson, because those options, if they go through their progressions, they see their first primary options deeper downfield are not available. Whereas what you're going to have with the Jimmy Garoppolo, with Drew Brees would be a perfect example of this as well, is they just go, they look downfield, that's not there. They go, okay, well, let's look underneath. Let's get the ball out of our hands. Let's make sure we hit our dump off options. That's not going to be the case with Trey Lance. Trey Lance does have the mobility. He does have the arm strength, where if you look at what Trey Lance did in college, we actually got glimpses of this in the preseason as well. Lance is going to be the guy that will be extending plays with his legs, and he will be looking deeper downfield for a healthy Brandon Ayuk by the time he gets in. So with Deebo Samuel, I know a lot of people are going to see this performance and automatically assume that Deebo is going to be the wide receiver one for the San Francisco 49ers throughout the rest of the season. But I would make the argument that despite him almost putting up 200 receiving yards this week, I would prefer Brandon Ayuk as the wide receiver one on the San Francisco 49ers once Trey Lance is taking over as the starting quarterback, which of course the finger injury did put a little bit of hesitation on us being willing to say that Brandon Ayuk and Trey Lance are going to take over as that dominant pair earlier in the season. But regardless, that's 100% going to be the case, at least by the time we get halfway through the year. I promise you, by the time we get to week 8, there's a 0% chance that Jimmy Garoppolo is the starting quarterback for this team based on what we've historically seen when teams make this type of investment into the quarterback position. So Lance is going to take over. Lance will prefer Kittle. He will prefer Brandon Ayuk when Ayuk is healthy. And another reason why we are avoiding Deebo Samuel, as y'all know, I have said that way too many people in the fantasy football community think that they can predict injuries, and they think they can go and identify players that are a higher risk of suffering an injury or just are a little bit safer. I mean, injury analysis, in my opinion, is way overblown at the moment in terms of people thinking that they are just knowing exactly what's going to happen. In a game like football, it's so sporadic and random that there are very few players that you can say are quote unquote injury prone. I think we want to give at least a handicap of 5 players at the most that you're allowed to say are injury prone coming into the season. And players that we included on that list were Raheem Mostert and Deebo Samuel. You go back to Deebo Samuel all the way through high school and his college career. This is someone that stayed 5 years at South Carolina because he dealt with injuries after injuries after injuries. The same thing happened in the NFL. Deebo Samuel is going to be at a higher risk for injury than I think we're going to have from other players, even though it's very dumb to say that 99% of the time. I think Deebo Samuel is one of those exceptions. So based on the fact that I believe Deebo Samuel's at a higher risk for injury, based on the fact that I think that he's going to be a worse fit with Trey Lance, Brandon Ayuk is going to continue to get healthier. He will take over as the wide receiver one in this offense. And Deebo Samuel had this monstrous performance against a very bad defense. I think Deebo Samuel is going to be a clear sell for us. And now our next sell, I know we're not going to get that much pushback from this. I mean, this is kind of an easy one if you can take advantage of someone in your league that may not necessarily know what they're doing. We're selling Jamaal Williams. Now, I actually went through and I wanted to say, oh, should we sell DeAndre Swift and Jamaal Williams? But no, if you're looking at the profile of these two running backs, I think that DeAndre Swift is someone that can continue to expand his role in the offense, where this was essentially a 50-50 split week 1, where you had DeAndre Swift with 11 carries, 11 targets, where you had Jamaal Williams with 9 carries, 9 targets. But we have to remember that DeAndre Swift, I actually was completely wrong. I said not to start him this past week based on all reports indicating that it was going to look like DeAndre Swift was going to have a smaller week 1 role than what he's going to have the rest of the season. And at the same time, a very tough matchup where we know the 49ers were going to blow the Lions out of the water. So we were trying to avoid this situation where we can. And my God, were we incredibly wrong. But at the same time here with Jamaal Williams, we have to understand that I think that his role is going to continue to shrink the healthier and healthier that DeAndre Swift gets, where I think he's most likely going to be splitting carries with DeAndre Swift 50-50 throughout the entire season. But carries aren't the most valuable thing in fantasy unless they're in the red zone. We know the carries between the 20-yard lines, they actually translate to very few fantasy points, and we're willing to give away those carries to the other running backs. But DeAndre Swift, that's going to be the guy that is getting the targets. He is going to be getting the touches in the red zone. So I think DeAndre Swift will continue to expand his role in the offense. I think Jamaal Williams, I'm pretty sure that he will never have another game where he gets 9 targets in 2021. Now, I know that this is going to be a player that the hate is going to flow. Like in the premiere of this video right now, I'm ready for y'all to just spam this hate. It doesn't matter. David Montgomery is going to be a clear sell candidate for us here. Now, I will be the first person to admit David Montgomery looked like a fantastic running back on Sunday night against the Rams, and the Rams are a fantastic defense, and Montgomery had a great performance. He goes with 16 carries, over 100 yards, and a touchdown to go along with it. That was fantastic for David Montgomery, and for that reason, so many people are excited to go and vault David Montgomery up to this league-winning running back because they're making the argument that David Montgomery is going to be a player that all of a sudden against softer defenses, he's going to be able to go and crush. But I know you're going to hate me for saying this. After this game, I am less excited about David Montgomery than we were beforehand, because David Montgomery, we have seen the tale of 2 stories with David Montgomery so far in his NFL career. Story A, you had David Montgomery going, and I don't want to say splitting the backfield with Tariq Cohen, but playing in a clear role where he was the early down running back. He was good in that role where there was a pass catching option on this team in Tariq Cohen, and Tariq Cohen did handicap David Montgomery's overall ceiling, where Montgomery was going to be a mid running back 2 in fantasy based on the fact that he wasn't getting a lot of targets out of the backfield. Keep in mind, this is for a PPR format. And then the other story that we had with David Montgomery was 2020, and more specifically the end of 2020, when there was no other running back in that backfield to take touches away from David Montgomery. And this was the perfect spot for him, where you actually had Montgomery going out, getting every single target, every single touch. He turned into a workhorse running back on a very bad team. He was still managing to put up mid running back 1 numbers. And we came out and we said, if David Montgomery can have access to that same role, that same workload, he has an elite ceiling in 2021 with what he can do with the Chicago Bears, especially when Justin Fields takes over. I have some bad news, and that bad news is despite the Tariq Cohen injury not being fully healed, despite us maybe not seeing Tariq Cohen at all this season, it does not matter. Damian Williams comes out. Damian Williams has a clear role on this offense as the passing down running back. He gets 6 carries and, more importantly, 5 targets this week. He gets 5 targets to David Montgomery's 1. So I know this was a great performance from a talent standpoint where he displayed exactly what you're looking for as a David Montgomery owner, but the opportunity and the workload is not going to be there for him to have access to that elite level ceiling as long as this coaching staff does want to implement a passing down role with Damian Williams. And that's what we got from week 1. So while David Montgomery's value is actually on the rise because of his strong performance, I think based on the underlying numbers and the opportunity and the roles that we got to see in week 1 between Damian Williams and David Montgomery, I think David Montgomery's value should be on the decline. I think that I'm actually willing to say that David Montgomery, while he's a talented running back, while you were very happy if you drafted him last year with the Tariq Cohen injury, while he took over as a 3-down guy that could catch passes, because of course David Montgomery has the talent where he can catch passes. We know Montgomery can catch the ball, just like Joe Mixon and what we've been saying over the past few years. But with Mixon, they were going and instead they were giving that role to Giovanni Bernard, and now Mixon has that role himself. That's why I was so excited about Mixon this season. Whereas in Chicago, they're not giving that role to Montgomery. They're instead going, you know what, David Montgomery, you'll look fantastic with the touches that we give you, but we're going to give you limited touches to make sure that you stay fresh and you stay highly efficient. So it sucks. And I know a lot of people are going to hate this call, but this is one of my most confident calls this week, to be honest. A lot of times I come out and I say I'm an idiot. Don't trust me on anything. Please let me know your opinion. While you can give me your opinion on David Montgomery down in the comment section, I would say that's going to be very hard to change my mind on this one. I think the underlying numbers really illustrate how David Montgomery is a clear sell high. Now going to our next player, he was someone that I told a ton of people to start. Like if you ask me a start sit question with Corey Davis, I most likely told you to start Corey Davis this past week. We liked the matchup. We were excited about Zach Wilson. We were excited because Jamison Crowder was on the COVID list, which was going to mean an expanded role for Corey Davis in this offense. And with Corey Davis here, he got that expanded role, 5 receptions, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns go along with it. So I'm so happy to see that if you started Corey Davis, you most likely crushed your league mates. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge a couple things here. A, Zach Wilson looked very, very bad. You cannot ignore that at all. B, Elijah Moore is a talented rookie wide receiver. And Elijah Moore, it's so funny because once Jamison Crowder went on the COVID list and we weren't going to have him for this week, I was coming out saying I was really excited to see what we were going to have from Elijah Moore as well if he could take access of those slot wide receiver snaps. And I mean, Elijah Moore just completely shat the bed this week, but I think Elijah Moore will be able to expand his role in the offense given the talent and the prospect that he was coming out of Ole Miss. Jamison Crowder is going to come back. So I think after the week 1 performance by Zach Wilson, of course, Zach Wilson is going to improve throughout his own rookie season. But I think based on just how bad Wilson looked, we have to lower the overall expectations for the New York Jets offense. And to go along with this, Jamison Crowder will be back next week. Elijah Moore will continue to expand his role. So while Corey Davis had a massive blow-up performance, while Corey Davis looks like an alpha wide receiver and is going to play that X wide receiver position, I think that's probably going to be an intriguing spot if we could go through and sell high. We're not selling Corey Davis for what you drafted him at. Of course, you're selling to look for a profit right now with Corey Davis. I mean, Corey Davis, he could easily go out there and continue to dominate as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. Don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 as long as Elijah Moore does expand that role, but still going to be an intriguing player to sell. And our 5th wide receiver is going to be Marvin Jones here. And with Marvin Jones, it's kind of a clear call on why we're looking to sell him. Y'all know I was a little hesitant to start DJ Chark considering he hadn't built in that chemistry with Urban Meyer or Trevor Lawrence just yet. So we were telling some people to start Marvin Jones, telling a lot of people to start Laviska Shenault. Not too excited about how that played out. But here with Marvin Jones, he goes out and he gets 9 targets this game. And you're like, oh my gosh, Marvin Jones, 9 targets, comes in with a lot of production at the same time. This is so exciting. Well, what if I tell you that Trevor Lawrence threw the ball 51 times this game? What if I tell you that the Jacksonville Jaguars looked horrendous against the Houston Texans and that Urban Meyer looks like a stone cold donkey? What if I told you all of that? And we see that also DJ Chark, 12 targets right back from that injury, 12 targets right away. Laviska Shenault, a second-year wide receiver that's going to continue to improve, 9 targets as well. I would not be surprised if this is the heaviest usage that Marvin Jones gets all season. I mean, if Marvin Jones comes down from 9 targets to 7 to 6 to 5, that's going to be the pocket that he's in. So if you can take advantage of someone seeing this volume with Marvin Jones and thinking it's going to maintain throughout the entire year, I am not expecting the Jacksonville Jaguars to be the Buffalo Bills and the amount of pass attempts that they have. That's going to come down. I will be looking to go through and just sell Marvin Jones. And now some honorable mentions that we will have. The first one will be Tyler Lockett. Here with Tyler Lockett. Now, a blow-up performance. And I believe we had him ranked at like wide receiver 19. So I think that we were a little lower than consensus, to be honest. But of course, if you're going off those rankings, Lockett's in your starting lineup no matter what. And here with Lockett, he comes out 100 yards, 2 touchdowns to go along with it, but only off of 5 targets and 4 receptions. Now, of course, you're going to expect that Lockett's efficiency is going to be significantly higher than the majority of other wide receivers through the NFL, as Tyler Lockett is playing with one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL with Russell Wilson. But at the same time, I mean, the reason why you were a little hesitant to draft Tyler Lockett this year in weekly managed leagues and best ball leagues, of course, you love Lockett because he could give you that spike week potential. But Lockett, we know this is what we're going to get. We're going to get those really high highs with Tyler Lockett. We're going to get the really low lows at the same time. So if you were able to capture that really high in week 1, you were able to get those points into your starting lineup. And some people may just all of a sudden forget that Lockett's going to come with those down weeks at the same time. If you could move Tyler Lockett off and you could go instead get a wide receiver like a CeeDee Lamb, I know that's going to be such a hard call, but even if you could add something to Lockett and get CeeDee Lamb, that would be 100% something I'm looking to do. And now, I am not officially putting him on our sell high list. Now, this is a player that, let's cut the sell high video here, and I just want your opinion on it because we have gotten some questions in the live chat as of late, and it's hard for me to answer because a lot of people have been asking if we should sell high on Antonio Brown. And I'm going through and I'm looking at the boxes and I'm saying, well, Antonio Brown, we loved him coming into the fantasy draft, or at least the fantasy season, because we were looking at it saying this player clearly has the elite level ceiling. We have seen it so many years prior. And obviously there are all these positive reports coming out of training camp about Antonio Brown. But at the same time, we have to look at his performance on Thursday night and hit all the sell high boxes. It was a game that everybody and their mom was watching. Everybody watched that Dallas Cowboys Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. It's not like it was some random game at 12 p.m. on Sunday. No, it was a primetime game, the definition of a primetime game, the first game of the NFL season. So you have to keep that in mind for Antonio Brown. And on top of it, he goes up against one of, if not the worst defenses in the entire NFL in the Dallas Cowboys. On top of this, I mean, he is also playing in a situation where the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to fight back and put up points on the board against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which not many teams are going to be able to do. So it does lead to Tom Brady having to throw the ball. And on top of this, Antonio Brown doesn't come out and dominate the team in targets. I mean, the guy that we love on this offense, Chris Godwin, gets 14 targets this week compared to Antonio Brown's 7. Robert Gronkowski also picks up 8 targets at the same time. So if I'm looking through the boxes, Antonio Brown does look like he has everything in the makings for you to get maximum value from him in trade this week. Now, it's scary to say this because Antonio Brown clearly has that elite upside. Nobody's going to be surprised if Antonio Brown continues to smash and finishes as a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 this season. So I'm hesitant to say this, but at least consider going through and thinking about it. And let me know your opinion on this because it's going to be one of the hardest calls for me in week 2 whenever we get this question asked in the live chat, whenever we get this question asked in one of those live streams. So please let me know your opinion down in the comment section because I want to hear a good argument on if we should be riding out this value that we found with Antonio Brown in drafts or if we should just be selling for a profit right now. Now, thank you again for watching this video. Really hope that you enjoyed the video. I know you probably didn't. Go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Anyway, we're going to be making so many videos like this throughout the entire season where you can go through and you can yell at me all the same. And we'll be live tonight. So hit that bell next to the subscribe button so you know when we go live and you can come out. You can ask me those questions directly or you can tell me how stupid I am. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. And I hope you have a great day.